Hello and welcome back to Factorio C Block. In our last episode, we built out our induction furnace section of the new smelting area, and or sorting and smelting area, if you want to consider this stuff before this. And it got quite big. It has gotten quite big. And the next part is the casting part to actually turn these liquid metals back into usable items. Most cases plates, but there's some exceptions. So there's going to be a combination of two separate technologies or sets of technology. Do I need that? I guess I do need that. Two separate sets of technologies that we unlocked recently. One was the traditional casting method that we have been using for the plates that we have already. And then the other one is strand casting, which is a new technology that we unlocked as part of the last set of more than a dozen. I don't even know how many technologies we unlocked as part of that, but there was quite a few technologies we unlocked. It might have been like 24, something like that, something crazy. So we unlocked a lot of casting technologies as part of this, including things like copper casting, which includes some new recipes. So I wanted to take a quick look at those. What we can now make in the casting machines, in the strand casting machines specifically, is copper wire coil, which can then be uncoiled into regular copper wire. Now you can see some advantages here, I think, in that we can put 4 copper wire coils in the space instead of 4 copper wires. And they have a density of 4 times, with just a little bit of processing at the other end in electronics assembly machines, which are really fast, or fairly fast anyway, relatively fast and small. And that gives us much more density than trying to put copper wire on the bus or on a belt. We can put copper wire coils and then uncoil it, unwind it into copper wire for that 4x decompression, I guess. And the same thing goes here too with copper sheet coils. We can make copper sheet coils directly from the molten copper, and then at some point along the way, we can turn those copper sheet coils into copper sheets again at a 4x decompression. So it's really, really nice set of recipes. And the same thing goes for a few other things, including tin, where we can get tinned wire, which actually includes the copper with the tin, which we can then make tinned copper wire out of, tinned wire coils, that is, tinned copper wire out of those. As well as tin sheets to tin plates. Let's see here. Iron just has the iron sheet coils to iron plates. Lead, same thing. I think that's actually all of them have the same thing at that point. We also have solder, though, which is made from either of the 2 solder recipes, with the second one being unlocked at this point, with the first one we've had for a while. And that's made into coils, which can then be unwound into solder itself at a 3x compression. So it's not as good. It goes 4 to 12 instead of 4 to 16, but well, we can live with that. Even so, it's a nice compression or decompression ratio. And then finally, we also have steel, which can go from sheets into plates for X compression. And this unlocked both the second and third steel recipes, which I commented last time are actually backwards. If you look at their similar iron recipes, number 2 is the one with the manganese, and number 3 is the one with silicon, but these are the opposite. So we have all of that, all of the induction forging, I guess this is called, ready to go. And I did stamp down the rest of the blueprint, or a blueprint here, just to kind of get the things together. But part of what we didn't do and didn't look at was the pressure balancing mechanism that I'm using to pressurize the small storage tank at different amounts, depending on which one of these recipes is being used. So if we go back a moment and we look at where we have the manganese, which is coming out of here, going around this way and into these middle 2, we have silicon coming out of here and going into these bottom 2, and then we have just iron ingots and steel ingots going up the sides, and then we have just the basic steel and iron ingot only recipes there. What I've done is I want to use the manganese first, because if you recall, anytime we produce manganese, we're also producing iron. That's done here with this recipe, with the ferrous mixture. And so anytime we're producing manganese, we're producing iron. Therefore, I want to use the manganese as much as possible so that the iron gets doesn't get backed up here, and therefore we use the rest of the iron that's being produced here only when that iron runs out. So by using the manganese as much as possible, or wanting to use the manganese as much as possible, I've set these pumps coming out of these two middle machines, the manganese recipe machines, to operate whenever the tank. What's the tank value again, just to show it? 2.5K to operate whenever the tank is less than full, which means it's going to operate all the time. In that case and in this one. So that's kind of an ideal there, or what we want to have. And then my next thought was, well, let's use the silicon next, because if we have surplus silicon, we're not making the silicon components out of the silicon, we're not making glass, and maybe we do a prioritization here to make sure that the silicon goes this way less. That's something we can work with later. Then I want that to run when these are at 1.5K, or I guess at 60% full, and the tanks are 60% full or less, so that this has priority over this one, but that this one is the next in line. And then finally, these up here, the basic recipes that just take the steel or iron ingots, operate whenever the value is under 500, which means less than 20%, so that we can make sure that the tank stays filling, even if it's not full, for as long as possible, because otherwise we could have issues with the iron running out because of imbalance in the recipes or not using the right things, and then running out of iron. So we want to make sure we keep the iron moving at those relative ratios, but keep it moving at all times until it's backed up further down the line. And so what we need to do now with this is, well, cast it. So we're going to take some of these strand casting machines and turn those into in this case, iron sheet coils. And you can see all those recipes we looked at here. The two copper ones, iron, lead, the two tin ones, steel, and solder. And if we go back to the plan we looked at, I think it was last time, how much iron are we possibly going to produce from this build? We're going to produce 11.25 iron ingots. The math is going to be a little bit funny here because, well, we're making 240 if we use that recipe out of just 12 ingots. We're making 240 if we just use that recipe out of 12 ingots. But this one here, we're actually only making 120 out of 12 ingots. But if we said that most of the time, if we guessed that most of the time we were going to turn 12, or in this case 11.25 ingots into 240, or let's say 225 molten, maybe we could down round that and say 200 molten. We want to be able to manage dealing with 200 molten with this setup. So in that case, we need to have 3 of these. Wait a minute, that was 200 molten every how many seconds, though? But this is 12 ingots per second. So this is actually 200 molten per second. Do I even have that much possibly being produced? No. Wait a minute. I can't possibly process all of this with this build. 11.25 ingots per second. I can only possibly produce 200 molten every 4 seconds times 1.5. So 300 molten every 4 seconds, so 75 molten per second, I guess. Maybe. In which case, this thing can consume 80. So maybe we only need one of these, but I'm feeling like 80 per 4 seconds. So we're going to need to have 20 per second. We could have up to 4 of these. Let's put 3 of them down. That's what I planned for. So good thing I did the math right enough, I should say. So we're going to do 3 of these. Maybe not exactly right here, because this is a little bit of a tweak from the design that I had come up with originally in my other build. We're going to do a little bit of a tweak to it. But this needs to bring in the molten iron, so we're going to pipe that up and into these inputs, of course, and then also some water, so we'll put that in on the other side, of course, and it's going to output iron sheet coils. And what I want to do with those is take them, let's see, let's do this, yeah, I think so, something like that. Connect up there, pipe, underground, pipe. Yeah, let's come down here then. Do this, and then I want to actually take these and put them on the inside of a belt. Same thing with obviously one from each of the machines, and then that'll output to a belt like this. And it'll go up, and it'll go on to or toward the bus eventually. And then I came to a decision that I wanted to make, and I'd like to get some input on this because we're not going to get through this whole segment today or this whole component today, but I wanted to get some input on this from you, the viewers, to see what your thoughts are on whether I should do, whether I should replace what's on the bus that's currently iron plates with these iron sheet coils to get a, was it a 4X? No, I don't remember. Strand casting and then iron casting. It was a 4X compression. Yeah, the 4X compression. Whether I should rely on that 4X compression and make the bus be 4X more dense, therefore having to clean everything off the bus, and also everywhere I bring iron into an assembly, having to have a rollout machine, basically an assembler that's rolling out the sheets, the coils into plates. And I don't know that I want that. That could be kind of convoluted. So my thought that I got to was, okay, we have all of these recipes. Let's just go here. We have all these recipes. These are all new recipes. They all lead to something new. There's a few things though that aren't really on the bus yet. Two things, in fact, and maybe possibly a third, depending on how you look at it, that's not being used at least much. So my thought was, well, we already have the plates on the bus. Those are harder to change. So maybe we leave the plates as plates on the bus, and instead we belt copper wire coils and tinned wire coils, and also possibly solder coils onto the bus, replacing the solder that's on the bus with coils, obviously. And doing that, maybe this one, maybe not this one, but maybe so. But definitely putting these two on the bus and using them to replace where we're using the solder, or we're making the tinned wire. So like here, so instead of bringing in this belt of copper and tin, we bring in a half belt of tinned copper coils, and we uncoil them here and make the tinned copper wire. And maybe we even make that a half belt with this fuel here, and thereby, save kind of a half a belt of effort or something here. So that's a possibility too. And then we're using copper here that we're making out of plates. We could replace that possibly with an uncoiling machine of the copper wire and make that a little bit simpler as well. This one's a different recipe, so we couldn't use that there. But down here, we could do the same thing, where instead of having the two machines here, we could just bring in the coils, and we wouldn't need the tin or the copper, although this also uses tin plates down here, I believe. It's pointed at it, so I'm guessing yes it does. And this also uses copper plates. So we'd have to really evaluate that and decide, is it worth it to mess with this particular design with the way we have things woven and being picked up to make that a little bit more efficient? Maybe not. Maybe if we rebuild this to expand it at some point later in the game, we could. But we're going to have a lot more, I think, recipes coming up that are going to use copper wire and tinned copper wire, that it might be beneficial to start replacing what's on the bus using those with the coiled wires. So let me know your thoughts on that type of subject, but I think that's something that I want to do. I think. What else I thought about is, as I was yammering, is that we are also turning some of that iron into steel. And actually, we're turning a lot of that iron into steel, because we're turning 24 iron ingots into 6 steel ingots. That's a 4x loss, basically, there. So we don't have steel dictated here, so maybe half of this iron goes into making steel. Maybe, I don't know what the numbers are. So that makes this a little bit closer to reality then, because there's no way we're going to provide 12 to this. Maybe we do provide 6 to this. This is kind of planning for about 6 per second. This is planning for about 3 per second, times 1.5, so about 4.5 per second. So maybe that's a better number, a better way to look at that. The half the iron goes into making steel, in which case then the iron can come out, or the steel can come out here and go into this. And let's say we're making a quarter of that in steel, so 1.5 every 4 seconds. That's hardly any. And so really we can just kind of count these probably as very little. And in fact, I think we're going to and just have one of these machines here because really, honestly, we do not make that much steel. We don't use that much steel either, but consuming 20 per second, that's 2 ingots per second, and we're only possibly going to be making 1.5, maybe. Times 1.5, so it just about 2. So I think that's fine just to have one strand caster of steel. And then again, we'll connect that up to the belts and the pipes and the things here. Let's actually let that fill up before I do this. So we do a pipe, well, that not there. We do a pipe like this, which I did mention doing, and then wandered off in a direction of other distinction there. And then we can do this like this. Although I could have done it the opposite way, and we could copy that like this and then bring that up there. And again, I might change the spacing on this, so we're not hooking these up yet on purpose. Back here though, since these are going to be a little bit different recipes, we do have, and this pipe sneaking through here, by the way, is for nitrogen. That's got to go up to something. Oh, it actually goes up to what we're going to do right now, so that's fine. So we talked a little bit about the strand casting recipes there. We obviously have a few more to do, but I wanted to also talk about some of the new regular casting recipes. So we have the casting machines we've been using up to this point for iron, copper, etc. And now we're going to use them for something different. We're going to use them for silicon. And there's 2 silicon recipes here, monosilicon seed and monosilicon. And the monosilicon uses a monosilicon seed and molten silicon to make the 4 monosilicon there. And so this uses 1 monosilicon seed every 6 seconds, and this produces 5 seeds every 4 seconds. So one of these can support a lot of those. And I honestly don't know how much of this we're going to need, but I know how much we at least will need, which is 1 of each of those machines. But we could easily do, this is 5 every 4 seconds, which is 1.25 per second times 1.5, so God, whatever that is, 1.8 something, I think. And then this over here would need 1 every 6 seconds times 1.5, so that's about 1/4 of a 1 per second. So we could easily provide 1 of these feeding into about 7 of those. Without a problem, but really we're not going to need that much silicon, at least not yet. I don't know what silicon's used for long term, but at least for right now, I think we'll just do this build. And plus, this is going to consume, well, 1 silicon there. This is going to tell us how much it consumes kind of raw here. 41 every 6 seconds, basically, of crafting time. In order to make 4 monosilicon every 6 seconds, times 1.5. So that's 62 possible molten silicon, which is just over 6 bars, but we're only actually making 2.25. So there's no way in heck we're going to use this much either. So I think we're fine with this concept. Now, to continue the thought here, though, we do have an input here for nitrogen, which is what this pipe was for, of course, as mentioned. And we're going to use that. We're going to bring that into this somehow. I had this done differently before, but I think I can change it again on my new design here to maybe do something like this. No, you guys actually don't have to be separated. But I want to put it like this on the side, I think. No, because you don't have an input there, so I can't do that either. Well, crap. That doesn't work either then. Now I've goofed myself up. I think then I'm going to go back to my original design with a space in between, but not for the movement of the silicon from one to the other necessarily, as much as our kind of standard, I guess, for lack of a better word, design for an unloading buffer box here, where we do like the inserters grabbing from the side here and the bottom there. So there's like a belt here, or in this case, the corner of a machine. And then we can do the same thing here. Can I do... Yeah, actually just like that. And then the same thing outputting them onto, in this case, a belt. And so we're going to do that same design here, and then we're just shove that right there in that corner, like that. But I do need to squeak this pipe through, which means I might move it over a bit so that I can get it past these machines. I must have had some different spacing. No, I didn't have some different spacing. I actually had this positioned higher up, so that it was kind of sticking out over top of this machine here, so I could sneak that pipe right past into there. And did I have... Nope. I had it all the way over here, actually, on my other design. Do I still want that? I'm going to want to sneak that water through this line, so I don't want it there. Unless I move the other stuff around, too, which I could do. That's why I didn't put the pipes in yet. Although this could... Well, I could go there. That's fine, too. Yeah, let's put it here, just like that. We'll connect this pipe up to here, like this, and across to there. And that'll be fine. And then I'm going to move these strand casters up a bit so that the water pipe can come through just above the nitrogen pipe. And I think that'll be fine in the end, at least. And that takes care of... Oh, one more thing to take care of silicon. We need to be able to put those seeds into this machine over here, and just to keep that thing running. And that'll output, obviously, the silicon, monosilicon, and we're going to want maybe a couple stacks of that. Who knows? I'll go through those at some point, and we'll set those up properly. But we also have glass over here, and we did have the old glass build, which is using the standard smelter, smelting the silicon ore, but we don't need that anymore. We have this fancier build that turns the silicon into silicon powder, that then turns the silicon powder into glass mixture, and that turns into molten glass, which means we need to have one more of these guys that is making glass for us, and the glass recipe is up here. So you're going to consume 40 molten glass to make 3 glass. You're making 120 molten glass out of 12 glass mixture. You're making 1 out of silicon, 1 out of 1 silicon, 1 out. So 1 silicon ingot effectively becomes 10 molten glass, because that's 12. So yeah, 10 molten glass. So we need to have roughly 4 silicon ingots to make 40 molten glass. So we don't have that. Well, 4. Nope, I wasn't checking times again, Wally. This is 40 every 4 seconds times 1.5. So that's 15 per second. This is going to produce 30 times 1.5, or 45 per second. So a third of that, which means 4 glass mixture per second. If I'm doing the math right here, who knows? Which means 4 silicon powder per second, which means 4 ingots per second. No, I goofed it up somewhere. I think I did. I hope I did. You only need... This can consume 10 molten glass per second times 1.5, which is 15. This can provide 15 in... Yeah, this is why I screwed the math up. I knew I did somewhere. This will provide 180 every 4 seconds. So that's... That's 1/12. So 1 glass mixture. No, 1 glass mixture per second. Yeah, it is actually using... I think it is actually using up to 4 silicon. So we're definitely not going to be able to provide that much silicon, because we're going to have silicon going to the steel and iron smelting. Or I could be goofing the math up. Honestly, who knows? Oh, and by the way, these two are just going to be connected like this, and we'll have this pipe right here connect up to that like that. So this will produce glass. Either way, we'll have the same type of output box there, right here, and we'll have that connected up, and we'll have glass being produced in some small quantity, just like we're producing a small quantity of silicon, monosilicon there. And then we'll also need to continue this way. And so this is Invar. Invar's also going to use one of these smelters. They're the casters, rather. We'll put that right there. And that will be this one. And we're just going to use some small amount of that as well. That also uses steel. So some of the steel that we're making is going to have to go into that, which we have already planned by these 2 inserters here. And it's also going to use nickel, which I'm hoping we'll use a lot. But you can see here it uses a lot of steel, and we just do not have that kind of steel yet. So same kind of thing, though, for Invar. So we'll take care of that. And then we have, after Invar, whatever the heck this is, lead. So lead takes us back to the casting machines. And let's go ahead and move these guys up so that we can kind of plan for that a little bit. Not there, but there. That'll do. And then lead is going to come out from there. So we're going to kind of do this, which is going to be a little bit messy because we need to figure out how much lead we need, how much lead we're going to be producing. Again, if we were producing 4.75 ingots of lead per second, that would produce 47.5 molten lead per second. But this machine actually can almost produce that. This machine can produce 45 because it's 1.5 times 120, 80 divided by 180 divided by 4, which is 45. So that's actually pretty good. So we need to be able to consume 45 of this, which we will do with we'll do 2 of these. It's not quite the full amount, but it's going to be close enough that I think I'm fine with it. And so then the same thing we'll do with that over here, and that'll connect up to that down there. Now, this is going to be kind of in the way, but we could do either a right side box output, or we could take the pipe up and connect it to maybe the side of the machine. We can kind of finagle that to get that to go through this gap here a little bit if we want. The next one we have here is the solder, and that one, how much? Well, so the problem here is how much of this tin and zinc are we going to use versus how much of this lead and tin are we going to use? And what do we want to use first? My thought was we're not using zinc all that much. In fact, zinc is being used for this and brass, and that's it. Right? Yeah, because this is zinc here, so yes. Wait, are you connected right? No, you're not, actually. That's in the way. This needs to be something like this. I might have that broken on my, I probably do have that broken on my other design. Maybe I should move those over. No, I did that so they could jump this pipe, so I think that's fine. We'll leave it alone. I just probably don't have that inserter working. If it needs to, it may not even need to. So we're not using very much zinc in this build, so my thought was to use the zinc first, because the zinc is also one of the things that's backing up the belts here, as you can see. This is zinc right here, so it's kind of backing up, and it will back up pretty fast with wherever it's being made here. Once we have more of it being produced and output, things like that. So both of these two here, for example, and these are the ones that are producing things like gold and that's aluminum, and gold is actually not produced by this one. Gold is no, it's not gold. Silver, sorry, silver, which is here and there. So we got to be careful though with how we consume the different things. So my thought was to consume as much zinc as possible. So I've set this one to run all the time, and this one to run only when low, which means that we're not going to actually use very much lead here. It'll mostly just be tin and zinc. So for these, well, if we try to consume a good chunk of this zinc, we have 1, and we try to consume not too much, but enough tin, maybe we do at least half of the zinc here. So that's half of a zinc ingot, which would give us per second. This is consuming 3 per second times 1.5, so 4.5 per second. About about 1/8 of this. So just over 30 molten solder, maybe. And this recipe here is going to consume 20 per second. We could probably get away with just one of these. We could also plan for 2 and you know, deal with it when the time comes. So we're going to do just one, but we'll have space for a second one if we end up needing it. And I think that'll work out just fine. But I also just noticed we're at 30 minutes. So what I think I'm going to do is, well, I think I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait, and we're going to talk about copper and tin next time, especially because of the tin copper wire and the copper wire. We'll talk about those next time. We'll get some more of this hooked up. I may do a little bit of ancillary stuff, maybe. I might bring in the water pipe and things like that off camera. That way that doesn't take a whole lot of time up. But I think, though, we're pretty much going to just keep doing it on camera. So thank you all for joining me, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now.